y'all, and welcome to the Healthy by Heather Brown podcast, where I encourage you in healthy mind, body, and spirit through my Sunday reset. Let's get into it. Hey girl gang, and welcome to the Healthy by Heather Brown show. Y'all, I have already been just weeping with Donna before we hit the record button. So I'm like, it's going to be a good show. And we have already prayed for you guys. And I'm just excited to welcome my friend Donna Jones to the show today. She is a host of That's Just What I Needed podcast. And she's also the author of Healthy Conflict, Peaceful Life. But y'all, it's so crazy because God completely knit our paths together. We actually crossed over recently in Tennessee. I led a couple of sessions there for just women that are looking to grow their platform, that are believers, and that also really are looking to expand their knowledge and writing books and doing the podcast things and what have you. And Donna and I just clicked, like instantaneous. We were like, we're going to be friends. We like each other. This is so fun. Then we got to be roommates. And now I'm like, and then I was just on her podcast. So y'all have to go tune into it. But it's like, Donna, I don't even know where to start with introducing you. And I just keep rambling. So I might as well just say, come on into the show.
Come on into my house. Come on into my house.
Yes, that's right.
Well,
so Donna is a joy. And I'm so glad to have you here today.
Yes. So
tell everybody a little bit just about your background and maybe like a little bit about what you do. And y'all, also, if you're not watching this on a reel or something, y'all, she is the cutest little thing and she's blonde. And I tell her when I met her, I was like, when I am your age and your stage in life, I want to be you. I want to have your marriage. I want to look as cute and fit as you. I want to be all the things. So I was like, just come let me bask in your glory.
Okay. Well, first of all, you're way too kind. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I live in Southern California. I am a pastor's wife. We planted our church now just in 2 weeks. It'll be 20 years ago. And wow. Yeah. So I'm the mom of 3 adult kiddos who are my favorite people in the world. And I am a speaker. I speak quite extensively and I've written 4 books and 5 Bible studies. So yeah, wow, that's me.
Wow. Yeah. You are quite accomplished. And I'm just, y'all, I mean, seriously, today we are predominantly going to talk about her book, Healthy Conflict, Peaceful Life, but I will link all her resources down in the show notes so y'all can check them all out. But Donna, actually, this is one of the things that before I even invited you onto the show, I knew that I was going to be, talking about marriage this season. And so then I opened up to my audience, what would you guys like to hear about the most? And I mean, I don't think this is going to surprise you, but a lot of the answers were about, I feel like we were best friends and now we have kids and we're just lost in the thick of it and they're feeling disconnected or they feel like they've just lost that spark and how do they keep their spark alive in marriage? And so I was like, man, it sounds like, then when I read the title of your book, I was like, Donna is the perfect person to have on. So tell everybody just a little bit about what led you to write this book. And then like maybe just some encouragement to get started with if they feel so overwhelmed right now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you feel overwhelmed, you're normal. Okay. I just want to say that because I think we think something is wrong with us and it's not necessarily the case. So, and here's something that I've learned is that when we're feeling overwhelmed or we're feeling like, I've lost that spark, I've lost that leaven feeling, or like I'm just irritated with him all the time, or he's irritated with me. And we don't understand that conflict is just part of life. It's just part of being human. Then we'll do one of 3 things. We'll think you're bad, the other person, like you're bad. This is all because of you, or I'm bad, like somehow I'm a loser, or we're bad. And none of those 3 is necessarily the case. So we got to just normalize real life. Yes. But we also, then God has given us amazing insight and tools as to how to navigate real life so that we don't stay stuck. And that's the whole point is if somebody's listening and they're stuck, you are about to get unstuck. So, cause Heather and I really prayed for that. So I would say what prompted the book too was a real, I mentioned I'm a pastor's wife. And so I have had this, and I was a communications major, interpersonal communications major at UCLA, did my grad work at USC.
Okay.
So between like education and then just real life, there is literally nothing I haven't seen in terms of relationships in families, in marriage, parent, child, extended family, church situations. And I realized that our greatest joys come from our relationships. Like if I were asked you, tell me about your greatest joy, you tell me about a relationship and you'd smile. But then if I said, okay, Heather, tell me about your hardest heartbreak, you'd also tell me about a relationship. And so our relationships have the potential, for just the best of the best, but also the worst of the worst. So, and we all want the best of the best, right? And what ends up happening is some sort of conflict, either internal or external. And what I mean by internal is like, oh, I'm disappointed in how this relationship is going. Or I just don't feel satisfied, or I didn't think it would be this hard, or those are internal conflicts. Or external, where we're bickering, we're not seeing eye to eye on things, we're not getting each other. That's the stuff that robs us of our joy. So I'm like, well, why don't we actually deal with the stuff that is making us crazy? So that's why I wrote the book. I'm like, let's just put it out on the table and figure out how to deal with it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Because everybody's having those feelings. You're exactly right. But nobody talks about it. And especially, and I'm sure you could expound on this, but with social media now, it feels like, well, all anybody's ever posting is the happy and their highlight moments. So you just, potentially think, oh, well, their husband's just so loving, or like, I wish my husband would have gotten me flowers today, or whatever that is. Yes. How do you kind of start to quiet that inner critic, especially when it's like tearing down your husband all the time?
Okay. When you asked that question, my mind went immediately to, we had been married maybe 7 years. And there was a guy that lived across the street from us, and I called him Mr. Perfect because I mean, Heather, he was next level. So it was like they had a gardener. Okay. I live in California, Southern California. And I know it's crazy because California is the only place where literally everybody has a gardener. And I know that's not the case, but it's not bougie in California. It's just the way it is. So it's just not. It's just what you do. So anyway, they had a gardener, but then he would edge their lawn every Saturday. In addition to that, so their lawn was ridiculous. It was so pristine. Their garage, you could eat off the floor, and our garage, you could also. Oh yeah, you could. Their garage, it was so clean, Heather.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Yeah, I'm like, you could eat off the floor of our garage as well, but that's because there was actually food on the floor of the garage. I mean, he got up every Saturday morning. He washed his car. He washed her car. I mean, I would watch all of this, right? And then I started comparing it to my husband. And my husband on Saturday would be like, let's do something fun today. And in my mind, I was like, well, chop, chop, mister. We have, some honeydew things that we need to get done.
Right.
I started to become irritated at my husband. And this is so funny, Heather, but I wasn't even really cognizant that I was comparing because it was it was so subtle that it wasn't like I sat down one day and had this big aha moment that I was comparing him. But what ended up happening is one day I was early for an appointment and I happened to have my Bible sitting on the passenger seat of my car. And I'm like, I'm early. What am I going to do? And so instead of social media, I picked up my Bible.
I'm like, bravo, first of all, for not using social media.
I picked up maybe social media didn't exist back then because, this was early in our marriage. So I was lucky. And I just flipped open my Bible and I flipped open my Bible to the passage in Philippians where it says, whatever is true, whatever is excellent, whatever is honorable, whatever is praiseworthy, let your mind dwell on these things.
Yes.
And Heather, before I just think, I thought whatever is true, like, like butterflies and rainbows, kind of at that. But then that day I really realized, no, this is applying to relationships.
Oof.
And
Yeah.
I felt like I got hit by a 2x4 because I sat there honestly and I looked at that and I went, you're not doing that. In fact, you're doing the exact opposite. And if you don't turn this around, you are about to go down a path that's going to destroy your marriage.
Oh, wow.
I'm telling
Wow,
you,
Donna.
it was that revolutionary to me.
Dang.
And
oh my
I was like,
gosh.
I'm thinking about everything that's not excellent, not praiseworthy. And this is not to say that we don't address difficult situations. We do.
For sure.
But but in the context of also seeing it in a balanced way, where you're seeing the person for both their strengths, and maybe the things they need to improve on. So I grabbed a piece of paper, Heather, and I put at the top of it what I love about JP Jones. That's my husband.
Oh, so cute. So cute.
And I just started writing, and at first it was like, okay, it came slowly. And then I picked up momentum. And I was like, he's a great dad and he's fun. And yeah, Mr. Perfect has their garage, but they don't ever do anything fun. We do fun stuff, and I started looking at things from a broader perspective. And I looked at that list and I was like, what have you been doing?
Wow.
What have you been doing? And a few weeks later, I stuck it in my purse and JP and I were out to lunch and I hadn't really planned this.
Yeah.
But we just randomly went out to lunch. And during that lunch, I looked in my purse and there it was. And I said, can I read you something? And I pulled it out and I just started reading it to him.
Uh-huh.
And Heather, I will never forget the look on his face. It was like it was the greatest thing he'd ever received.
Oh my God.
But it was just,
awesome.
And I realized that's part of having a good marriage
Yes.
is affirming one another. And it's just like we want to affirm our children. You can't have a healthy child if you never affirm that child. We're so intentional about that as mothers.
So true. Yes.
But why not be that intentional with our spouse?
Absolutely. And especially if you have a husband whose love language is words of affirmation, like mine is. So,
and mine is too. Yeah.
There you
exactly.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that was really interesting too when you said that about, like he's got this perfect garage and he's Mr. Perfect, da da da. Because when you said that, I was thinking on the flip side, though, I bet you that wife might have been looking across the yard at you guys
Yes.
and been thinking, well, they go do something fun every weekend and we just sit here around the house and I'm bored. So it really is like it's almost like you don't realize what you have until you take yourself into that like eternal mindset of like that verse that like God was like, hey, hello, like, look what I've gifted you with. that's such a beautiful example for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And you know what, Heather, I would say like he was probably Mr. Perfect for her, but my husband was Mr. Perfect for me because I needed what he brought to the table. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So let me ask you this then. One thing that we talked about a lot on your podcast when I was on your show and that we connected about in Tennessee too, was that we both are very big into like mind, body, and spirit health.
Yeah.
So do you even mind elaborating a little bit what that looks like for couples together? Like, what do you think a healthy mind, body, and spirit looks like in a marriage? And if they're stuck in this conflict loop, what is it actually doing to their whole health?
Yeah. Oh, I've never been asked that question before in the context of marriage, but I love that. And you and I really are in agreement on this because as human beings, we are whole people. So we are not just our mind. We're not just our body. We're not just our soul. And you can't separate it because one affects the other, which affects the other. So if you, like, let's just go back to this example I gave you. So my mind was going to a really unhealthy place. So that was affecting my soul. I was just bugged and miserable about a lot of ridiculous things. And then that was affecting my behavior and it was affecting my body, like the stress that I
cortisol, y'all. It's real.
It's totally real. And then, when you take something like body, if you're not getting enough sleep, that affects your mind, how you're thinking, because you're not thinking clearly, because you're just fuzzy. And then that affects, your soul, and that affects your relationship. So we have to understand that one affects the other, which affects the other. Now, how that relates to marriage is that there are seasons in marriage where they all can't be operating at optimal levels, mind, body, and soul. For instance, right after you have a baby, you're just not going to be getting enough sleep. No. That's just a reality, right?
And your body's broken, so it's okay.
And your body's broken. Yeah, exactly.
Gotta bring it back, but
yeah. And so what you have to be mindful of is that I'm not operating at full capacity right now. So that's going to be affecting how I'm relating. So you kind of put some checks on yourself. Like I may not be seeing my husband exactly accurately because I'm sleep deprived. Yeah. And then also for you to have a conversation about that, babe, I'm barely functioning. So if I'm snippy, could you just give me some extra grace? Because it's not you. I mean, it could be you,
yeah.
but also, I'm operating out of a deficit here.
Yeah.
Conversely, like if one of us is having a lot of stress at work, and let's just say it's your spouse, your husband's having a lot of stress at work, then for you to have an expectation that maybe he's going to be as patient or as, I don't know, have as much time or whatever as he did when everything at work was just golden, is maybe an unrealistic expectation. So the point, I guess, Heather, is you got to understand what's going on outside of your relationship and how that's affecting the inside of your relationship, and talk about it, and then give each other grace.
It's actually, I was kind of chuckling, not at what you were saying, but it literally is what Eric and I did. I think it was either yesterday or this morning, but I texted him and I was like, hey babe, I just want to give you a lay of the land that I'm about to start my period. My hormones are everywhere. And so I just want you to know that if I'm a little extra snippy or if I'm crying for what appears to be no reason, this is what's going on. And he was like, it's actually really funny you just text me that, because I was about to tell you that we're short staffed at work today. I'm really stressed out. Like I have a meeting with my boss after I don't even know what it's about. And so I was thinking like, okay, so I'm at this level stress because of what my hormones are telling me, and he's at this level stress because of work. So now I can't just expect that I can fall apart tonight when I'd really like to, but we've got to be more of like that. Even though I can't get 100 and he can't give 100, we're going to have to be like giving and taking a little bit more than usual. But if we hadn't had that conversation and I come into it being like, oh, he's got the kids tonight, I can just like chill on the couch and lay up with my heating pad and all the things. And he's thinking, oh gosh, I can't wait to just lay on the couch and watch football because Heather's going to take care of the kids because I'm so exhausted from work. That does lend to a big disaster, let me tell you, because we've been there before and not talked about it.
Yeah. Okay, Heather, you bring up such two really good points.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you what those are. But first, I'm going to tell you a quote that my husband made up, which some of your listeners may have even heard, because it's actually kind of a quote that's gone viral, but without him as the author, but it was him because it was over 30 years ago.
Oh, wow. So it says unknown, but now we know it's JP.
Now you know. So, and he came up with this quote because we got in this ridiculous argument over a bowl of ice cream. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I expected him to get me a bowl. He didn't. And I was like, wait, how would you not know I wanted a bowl? It was ridiculous. And so
as half the marriage arguments are. So
okay, they're the stupidest thing ever. So he comes back and he looks at me with this big smile on his face and he goes, Donna, expectation without communication leads to frustration. And so that's
JP.
I know. So
okay.
Expectation without communication leads to frustration. And what you illustrated, Heather, was that you all both had expectations and limitations. You had limitations that, undergirded your expectations, but you communicated about them. So you didn't end up frustrated. And I think that if we kind of just If we lived by that quote, we could alleviate about 80% of all of our conflict. And by the way, not just with our spouse, but with our children. Ooh. And with our mother-in-law or mom, because it's like all of it, because we all have these expectations, but we don't communicate them. And then when they go unfulfilled, we get frustrated, we get hurt, we get offended, we get angry, all the things. So expectation without communication will always lead to frustration.
Oh, that's so good. Now, I love that. So now we've kind of talked about the lead up, like what got us to that level of frustration. Mm-hmm. I love that quote. I'm definitely going to have to wow, I'm taking that with me. I'm going to write it down afterwards. But then Donna, when you're in the middle of the frustration and you didn't communicate, now you're in the thick of it. What are kind of your go-to tools when you're I'm seeing red because I'm so mad right now and you're in it. Tell us, help us. SOS. Friend, what if I told you that teaching your kids scripture could be easy, fun, and actually stick? My free weekly Bible memory plan for kids gives you one short, powerful verse each week, designed to fit into your crazy busy life. With 4 kid-friendly verses a month and simple ways to weave them into your daily routine, you'll be planting God's word in their hearts without it feeling like homework. Want in? Grab it now at healthybyheatherbrown.com/freebies with an S and start building a faith-filled family today.
Okay. One of just a really practical thing is that we like to talk about our frustration level, like a thermometer.
Okay.
So if you could just even communicate where you are on the emotional level. So you might say something like, okay, on the emotional temperature scale, I'm at about a 99 right now. And my bandwidth before I explode is a 1. On a scale of 99 to 100, I'm at a 99. So just telling your spouse, I'm not in a place right now where I could talk about this rationally.
Oh, that's so good though.
So, and I think using that, the thermometer, it's a visual. So some people are more visual learners. So it's helpful and for the other spouse to realize okay, there's just a very small window of where she has a bandwidth for what's going on.
And you're not being you're making me so mad and you're doing da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. It's saying here's this neutral thermometer.
Yeah.
I love that you're not pointing your finger at them and being this is what you're doing that's making me mad. And da-da-da. It's let's bring it back and make it to this object that's over here and not as personal to describe it as well. Yes.
Okay. And you bring up another really good point is not being personal, because here's what happens is when we are in conflict, and it's going south, is that we tend to make the person the problem instead of keeping the problem the problem. So, and let me explain what that means. So
please do.
let's just say you're having a conflict with your spouse over the way something with the kids. You see things differently, right?
Right.
And so you start to get in this verbal sparring. Well, if you just wouldn't do that with him, he wouldn't respond that way. You're talking about your child. Or your spouse is saying, well, if you just be tougher on him, he wouldn't, and you're going, but see, that's making the person the problem. If you just wouldn't, then that child wouldn't, right?
Yes.
So, and this is all too common, but if you're making the problem, then you're saying, okay, our child's grades are going down. We got to come up with a game plan about what to do about it. Now see, now you're talking about the problem and how you're going to solve it.
Yes.
And then what that functionally does is it puts you on the same side of the problem versus when you're the problem, now we're on opposite sides.
Yes. That is really good. I'm I can practically see that playing out amongst us. Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
And okay. So let me give you an example of JP and I and something he said, and this might be a takeaway that you can say in the middle of a heated argument. JP and I were having a heated argument about, we saw things differently. And he was saying, this is Donna, this is the way, what we should do. And I was like, no, no, this is what we should do. No, I feel like I'm right about this. No, I know I'm right about this, and it was like that old baseball game where it's escalating my way. No, my way. You're not seeing this correctly. No, you're not seeing this correctly. And it was escalating. And so, but then JP just kind of paused and he said, Donna, I'm on your team. Mm-hmm. Heather, those words literally de-escalated the entire thing.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when we're going toe to toe, if one of us can just go, wait. Okay. I'm on your team. We're on the same team here. Yes. Those simple words can kind of just de-escalate a really hot situation until you can talk about the real issue. So
this must be a guy thing, because Eric has said the same thing to me. And you're right. It's like, it almost feels like you've got this fever pitch balloon and it's filling up with all this rage and anger. And then they say like, wait, we're on the same team. And it's like, oh, okay, well, the balloon's gone. Like, you're right. I don't know, but you're right. It's like, it just like lets all that steam out. It's crazy.
It's totally crazy.
And it's such a guy analogy too, because the same team, like I can see how they're the ones that say that, but you're exactly right. And now whenever he doesn't say it in an argument, like, I don't feel like I ever could get to the place, this is a negative of mine, where I can say it. It's like he has to remember to say it. And then I'm like, oh, okay, you're right. So I'll tell myself a little bit there. But yeah, I so appreciate you saying that. And I don't think you can say it enough. Eric and I actually just recently talked about this when we were recording a Marriage Corner. But you're right. It's so easy in the thick of the moment to be like so opposed to each other. But when you remember, he'll a lot of times say, Heather, at the end of the day, you have to remember, even though we're disagreeing right now, I want what's best for you. And I know deep down, even though you're mad at me right now, you still want what's best for me. We're on the same team. Exactly.
And that is a key component for how you even start a hard conversation, something that you just said. So let me outline this. So a lot of times people will ask, how do you even start a hard conversation? Right? Because I even have a free download on my website that says, how do you start a hard conversation in a healthy way, or because it was such a common question.
Oh, wow. Yeah, totally.
And here's what most people say, how they start a hard conversation. We need to talk. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's the one thing you don't want to ever say. So anybody listening who has used those words from this moment on, you are never going to say that again.
Perfect. I love it. Hard turn. Don't say it.
Hard turn. You are doing a U-turn, right?
But you think about it, you're like, I hate to hear it when somebody says that to me. I'm like, oh God, what do they want to talk about? What's going on now? I have to wait to hear what they're going to say.
That's right. And so it starts off the conversation in a negative place, and the person is already on defense. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that is a recipe for a disaster, to start a conversation where both people are already on defense.
Yeah.
Because then, they can't hear what you want to say. Right. Mm-hmm, exactly. So instead of starting with, we need to talk, you start by putting yourself on the same side of an issue. So let me give you a couple of examples.
Yeah, please.
Let's just say, I'm going to use a parent-child one, and then I'll use marriage. Let's just say you have a child that, let's just say homework is the issue. And it's like they whine, they cry, like you have to sit with them and go over their spelling words, like takes 3 hours to do something that really should take 10 minutes. And you're like, and by the end of it all, they're in tears, you're screaming. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
Yes.
So you realize, okay, this is an issue. It's a repeated issue. And by the way, difficult conversations need to be had over repeated issues. Mm. So, because you got to talk about them, because it's something that just keeps happening and it's robbing you of your joy. So it's like, okay, let's stop the joy robbing right now. Let's come up with a game plan.
Yes.
So it's homework. And so this is what you say to your child. I bet you hate it that I end up yelling at you over your homework every night. Do you hate it? Because I hate it. I don't like doing that. And your child's going to say, yes, I hate it. right?
Right.
So now you've put you and your child on the same side. Mm-hmm. We both hate the fact that I'm yelling at you.
Yes.
And then you say something like, okay, so what do you think we can do? Because you need to get your homework done and I need to make sure that that happens. So let's talk about some of the ways that we could do that. So you don't end up frustrated and I don't end up frustrated. And then you kind of talk about it, right? So with a spouse, it could be something like, honey, I know you've noticed that we keep arguing over our finances and I'll bet you hate it as much as I do. And they're going to go, yeah, I hate it. Right. So you've put yourself on the same side. And then it's like, okay, I don't want to argue. Do you want to argue about this? No, I don't. Okay. Well, what can we do? So you've set yourself up to have a conversation, but it started in a positive way where you're both wanting the same outcome.
Oh, that's so good, Donna. And I will say, and you know this well, I'm sure, that one of the top concerns that people end up fighting about is money. Mm-hmm. So do you have any even like specific recommendations you can give around that? Because literally that's one of the top 3 things that people say they fight about in marriage. So if you have practicals, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah, actually there is there's a whole couple pages in the book about this. So because it is such a big issue. And so I'll just quickly tell you that in this issue, you really do need to keep the problem and not make the person the problem. Because what will end up happening is like, well, we wouldn't be in this problem if you wouldn't spend so much. Well, you're so tight. I feel like I can never do anything, and you start verbally sparring about why you're in this situation, right? So this is really sensitive. So you cannot make the person the problem, even though there might be some truth to that. Like there needs to be some, you need to curb your spending or you need to maybe give a little bit of freedom. So do you see what I'm saying? There might be actual issues, but you're not going to solve the real problem if you start with that.
So true. Yeah.
So what this couple did that I reference in the book is they wrote at the top, they sat down and they were like, okay, this is an issue that we keep circling around and we've got to deal with this. So at the top of the page, they wrote the problem. They wrote the words, the problem. Find a way that we can manage our finances so the wife feels like she has freedom and the husband feels like it's not out of control, something like that. That was their problem. Okay. What do we want to do? What are we trying to accomplish here? And then they just started brainstorming and they made a couple rules. It was like, no name calling. We're not going to revert to that. We're not going to poo-poo anything right off the bat. We're just going to like all the potential things that we could do. And what ended up happening, and I go into more detail, but what ended up happening is when they put it down on paper, it made it objective, not subjective. Ooh. And they were able to go, okay, yeah, that one's not going to work because, they were able to have more of a rational conversation, whereas before it had been purely an emotional conversation. And so they ended up with this win-win situation that they never thought they could get at.
Wow.
And and sometimes with really difficult things, just putting them down on paper together, it takes the problem and it puts it outside of you so that you can both see it. And that's helpful sometimes.
Yeah. I could see how that would be helpful in a lot of different areas, not just financially, but even when you're thinking about like dreams or vacations or things that you want to do in general, because then you're also getting united in that front on what you want to be doing as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So I know that we're quickly running out of time. So I want to almost like rapid fire a few questions at you, if that's okay. So talk to us a little bit about, is there anything you would say that you and your husband do? And this is kind of 3 questions in one, so it'll be kind of fast, but daily, weekly, monthly, that you guys do to stay on the same page or that you really feel like helps your marriage?
Yes. Okay. Daily. I'll give you a couple things. The first thing that we do is when he comes home is like, how was your day? And we debrief. We just, even if it's quick. Let me start before that.
Okay.
There's something called the 3-minute rule. And it's the first 3 minutes of any human interaction sets the course of that interaction. So we both are like, hey, when we're home, or I'm home, or like something positive.
Okay.
Or if he comes home and I'm already there, he's like, hello. And I go, hey, like just something positive. I don't do like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're home. Here, take the kids. Cause that, which is when the kids were little, that was tempting, right?
Yes.
But what it ends up doing is it sets a negative tone. So you want to start from the get-go with something like, I'm so glad you're home. Yay. Daddy's home.
Yes.
That sort of thing. Because then now you're setting a positive tone in your home. That's number one. Check in with your spouse. Number two, like, how was your day? And just, even if it's 30 seconds, we do that every day. Good. Weekly. Okay. We have like little weekly rituals. Like for us, after church, we always go out to lunch.
Yeah.
And
great.
We always go out with our family, and it's like a touch point that we just do.
Yeah.
Monthly. Gosh, I don't know what we do monthly. I will say
well, you don't have to have an answer.
Yeah. I will say that on a regular basis, we realize that our relationship is the priority to the family. So our family is only as healthy. Our children are only as healthy as the dynamic between me and my husband.
Yes.
Therefore,
Donna is the second person that's been married for over 30 years in this podcast season that has said this now. And I could not agree more. And I know that so many of you that are listening, you're like in the thick of young motherhood, and you've got 5-year-olds and under and 10-year-olds and under. And you're just like, how is that even humanly possible? But I say it all the time. Donna's saying it. My father-in-law said it. Donna, will you explain what did that look like for you when you had little kids? How did you make that happen practically?
Yeah. Well, again, when JP would come home, we would actually have a conversation, like, how was your day? And we go to bed at the same time. So like when we're going to bed, like we have conversations, the whole sexual component. I mean, that's, it's so funny. I heard one time a speaker say, before women are married, they overestimate the importance of sex. And after they're married, they underestimate the importance of sex.
I can see that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, and here's something that my mom told me that I realized, like, whoa, that was a game changer. She said, Donna, if the Lord gives you good health, and like, just say you're married 50 years, you will have as many years with your spouse after your kids are raised as you do while you're raising your kids. So let's just say it takes you 25 years to get all the kids launched. You have another 25 years where it's just the two of you.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be investing in while you have kids. And the reason is because you'll be happier if you have a better marriage, and your kids will be more secure, because that your marriage is the barometer of the security level of your children. So it has to be a priority, which means you've got to work. And conflict is a reality, which means you got to like just go, okay, we're normal people. Conflict is part of life. This doesn't mean that our marriage is headed for divorce. We just need the tools to work this out so that we can go the long haul, and our kids will be secure and we'll be happy.
Yes, absolutely. This is kind of cute. The other day, my boys got out one of the, those little Brock's candies, like the sweethearts for Valentine's Day or whatever. So there was some in there, and they pulled one out, and my 9-year-old goes, oh, this one says lovebirds. Is this like what you and daddy are? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm writing that down. That is so cute. But also, I'm not going to lie, a little bit of me was like, I'm so proud of us though, because that means that they see that we love each other. And then, like you said, then they feel secure, and like they know that, they're not number one in front of Eric for me. And so anyway, it was just a little small tangible win that I was like, oh, this just made my whole week.
Okay, that go you. That is, and you know what, Heather, to your point, like physical touch, acts of service, the 5 love languages, just doing those things, still holding hands or giving each other a big hug. I mean, do you know that you need the equivalent of 4 big hugs a day to be emotionally healthy?
Really?
So, yes, you do. So that means your children need it, and that means your spouse needs it. So stuff like that.
And actually, it's so interesting you say that too, because I was just telling Donna before we hit record, I had my father-in-law on the podcast earlier today. We recorded an episode, and we lost my mother-in-law to Alzheimer's dementia about almost 2 years ago now, year and a half. And one of the things that my sister-in-law, so my mother-in-law's daughter, always said was, Heather, I just miss her hugs. Like, she's here, but she's not here to give me a for real mom hug. And so she was like, people always ask me what they can do for me. And she was like, I don't need meals, and I don't really need all these extravagant gifts or whatever. But she was like, I just need real hugs when I see my friends or my family, because I just don't get that the way that I want to anymore. And and so it just proves your point, and it just cuts right through you. Like, hug your family so tight. They need it, even if they don't know they do, especially your teenagers.
That is exactly right. They need it if they don't know they do. And to your mind, body, soul, it lowers your stress hormones. It raises, the good, it affects your whole body, your mind, your soul when we get big hugs.
Yes. I love that so much. Well, Donna, I feel like I could ask you 100 more questions. So I'm going to just ask you one quick question, and then I'll ask you the question I ask everybody to close out the show. But the first question is there anything that you just want to encourage the mom with that's listening to this and is like, I just don't know if I can do it. I feel like divorce is on the table, and I'm a Christian and I grew up in the church, and I'm just disheartened, and I didn't think marriage was going to be this hard, and I'm just overwhelmed. Can you just speak to that mom for a minute?
Yeah. I would say to her, first of all, that the Lord sees you, and that you are listening to this podcast right now because this is your lifeline, because the Lord wants you to know, I see you and I want to equip you. And there is a way out. There is hope. But you got to reach out and take it. I mean, the Lord's offering you a lifeline. Yes. And I would say, know that you're normal. Know that there is nobody that hasn't felt like, I don't know if I can do this. This is way harder. A million times, right? Yes. But stick with it. Stick with it. Don't give up, because, a year from now, you're going to feel totally different. If you stick with it. So, cause there's seasons of life. So that's what I would say.
Donna, I could not agree more with what you just said. And I just think that there's such an attack on marriage, and in the church, out of the church, and that's just generational impact. It's just truly wild. So if you don't mind even just closing us out in prayer, I would absolutely love that if you're open to it.
I would love that.
Awesome.
Lord, thank you for creating families, for creating marriage. Lord, it is beautiful in your sight. And Lord, because of that, the enemy really wants to attack. And so, God, I pray against the schemes of the enemy. I pray for women that are listening right now, that their eyes would be open to see those schemes, and they would call those schemes for what they are. And Lord, that they would turn toward their spouse, not away from him. God, that you would fill her with wisdom and with insight and with love and with grace. God, may she first really, really, really receive your love into her heart. May she know that she's seen by you, and that she doesn't have to strive to be loved and accepted by you, because of Jesus, what you did on the cross for us. Lord, I pray for healing in marriages that need to be healed, for communication in marriages that need to be filled with more communication, for forgiveness in marriage where there desperately needs to be forgiveness. God, for encouragement, for marriages that need encouragement. May the women who are listening, God, may they be women who encourage and who are wise and who are kind. but communicate, Lord, the truth with love. And I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Well, Donna, thank you so very much for coming on. We so appreciate you. Will you just tell everybody where to find you online, and then we'll head on out?
You bet. On Instagram, I'm at Donna A. Jones. And on my website, I have lots of free resources, and that is donnajones.org. And you can find the book, Healthy Conflict, Peaceful Life, everywhere books are sold. And I actually think it might be on sale right now on Amazon. Ooh. So there you go. Fabulous. Healthy Conflict, Peaceful Life.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Donna. And I will link all of her books, her free resources, especially if you guys want to get that, like the worst way to start an argument, or a conversation, you can go download that from her website as well. But truly, it was a joy to have you. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome. Okay. Bye, Girl Gang. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, Girl Gang. If you are tuning into this, I just want to give you a heads up that you missed the first half of this conversation between Eric and I and the Marriage Corner. So scroll down to the bottom of the show notes. You can click to listen to part 1 of our Marriage Corner episode, where Eric asked me a bunch of questions about my upbringing, about my school, and what else? What else am I forgetting?
Your upbringing, kind of your faith journey as well, going to private school, your parents, all those.
Yeah, so go back and get the dirt on, or the tea on all that if you'd like to. And then Eric brought me some part 2 questions this time. So it's really fun. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you have for me next.
So the first question I have is actually one of my favorite questions that I ask other couples, whether we've known them for a long time, or usually I ask it if we're meeting a couple for the first time. I think it's a great conversation starter. But I always ask the different spouses, and I usually lead off with the husband. And I usually ask the husband, what is the thing that you love most or appreciate most about your spouse? And I love the answers. A lot of times it catches the husbands off guard. And sometimes we don't have the best relationships after that. But
that's not true.
Usually it works out okay. But I'm going to make that a little bit different because, you know what? I want to hear some good things about me. And I guess the question that I would ask you is, what drew you to me when we first met in college?
Yeah, so Eric is 6 foot tall, dark hair and blue eyes. So all the women are going to be like, yeah. I feel like there is just like something about that, like really, like catches your attention. Eric has really light blue eyes. If you're watching this on a reel or YouTube or what have you, Eric's wearing a blue pullover so you can see his blue eyes. Popping out with that blue pullover. And then he's tall, so 6 foot tall. And I just really thought, man, he's good looking before I even really knew anything about his personality. But then the first impression I have of Eric, and we've shared this before, was he actually offered me a pillow because we were together with a huge group of people watching a movie, and I was seated on the floor. And I just thought, man, well, that was really thoughtful and intentional. And then one of the other things that I quickly picked up about Eric is that he is a good question asker. So you did a good job of taking an interest in me and showing that you could be selfless and humble, even though I knew that he was a top student at the Brock School of Business at Sanford, accounting major. And then you guys know part of his story. He actually went back to school after becoming an accountant to become a nurse practitioner. So he's off the chart smart, but it's really fun.
I don't know about that. I am very good at school though, and there's a big difference. So anyways.
Anyway, he's being humble. See, exactly. So how could I not fall in love with that? There you go. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, that's great. Okay. That was all great. I love to hear those things. Feel great about myself now. But I guess the second question, kind of along those same lines.
And you made me laugh. You made me laugh.
Yeah, great.
That goes a long way.
Browns are notoriously funny. That is true.
Yeah.
But the second question I have is, how have you changed since we have been married, and how do you think I have changed? I know it's kind of a broad question, but what would you say?
I think that you and I both have become a lot more just confident in who we are, number one. And number two, I think that we really have just grown up together because really, I mean, you think you're an adult at, what did we meet at 19? We were 19 years old when we met. We were 22 when we got married, right? 22? Mm-hmm. Maybe you were 23 and I was 22. And so you think you're an adult then and you've got it all figured out. And I feel like the older you get, the more that you realize you don't actually know and how much you have to learn. So I feel like you and I have changed in that we have gotten more confident in who we are, but we also have been really open to change and growth. And I think that probably the biggest way that I think that you have changed is that you now find your confidence in Christ. And I think that, you know, it's kind of like what you were asking me the last time, how my relationship with the Lord has changed over the years. I think as you've gotten older and more confident in yourself, that now you really are willing to fall back on that. And I even think that that has allowed you to be able to like get to the gym more and have the confidence of like showing up there daily and then allowing that to affect your confidence too. And then other ways that you've changed. I mean, obviously you made a huge career change and yeah, you're more buff now. And what? And then as far as me, how I've changed, I mean, definitely growing in confidence, getting more curious. I think that becoming an entrepreneur at such a young age, I mean, it's been 15 years ago since I first started this business, and it's changed so much over time that I feel like, you know, we've had to learn a lot about how to go back and forth off of each other. And I feel like sometimes you really toe the line more for me when I'm busy with work and then with kids, and then vice versa. I just think that we've changed a lot, but also I'm so thankful that for the most part, we've made sure to make sure that we're still growing together as we're changing. Because when you get married young, that can be a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of those things. And while this is about you, I think one of the things that I think about as we've, you know, gotten older together and our marriage has matured is that, you know, early on in our marriage, you have all of these expectations that you think are going to be met. It can be something as small as how you arrange the dishwasher or put things in the refrigerator. And initially, you just expect certain things to happen, and a lot of times they do not happen. And so you have to just communicate even more of those expectations, no matter what it is. But then I think as we've grown together and we've kind of learned to give and take, and what's important, what's not really important to discuss. And also, too, a lot of times we'll talk about, sometimes I'll get home from work and I don't even have to say anything, and you'll just know, like, you'll know that it was a stressful day at work, and you know what, I'm going to pick up a couple extra tasks tonight. I might even put the boys to bed myself. And it's the same way a lot of times. Sometimes you'll have had a really long day, a really long week. And it's basically as you grow older together, you kind of get to learn to read each other without even saying anything, but also to understanding that how important it is to communicate sometimes, and when it is specifically important to discuss those expectations and what's truly important. But you just kind of get into this groove, and you know, you really do just grow closer together where you become more of the same person. But also too, I love that I think we've become, like you said, more self-confident in ourselves as individuals as well too, and what is truly important. I know myself much better than I did when I was 23, just like you know yourself much better than when you were 22, and just kind of what makes you tick and what kind of drives you on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I think I would agree with you. Definitely, that's how we've grown in our marriage. And
I will openly admit that Eric is by far a much more efficient dishwasher loader and a much more efficient like grocery unloader and making the refrigerator beautiful. That is not my strong suit. And so I'm so grateful that he has realized that. And he either lets it go or fixes it himself now versus being like, why didn't you do it? And I'm like, I don't know. That's just not my strong suit.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to transition a little bit from our relationship to your role as a parent and as a mom. But can you maybe just briefly touch on what was your expectation of being a mom and what is now your reality of being a mom?
I think before you have kids, you just have no idea how all-consuming it will be. And so I think that you just think, oh my gosh, that mom's doing XYZ, or I can't believe my mom did ABC. But you have no concept of what it's going to be like to have kids. And it's one of those things where I remember getting up when Eric and I were first married and going to work. And it's like all you had to think about was yourself. I mean, I know Eric's going to get up and take care of himself and get himself to work, and he knows how to get his, you know, lunch and to get home and all these things. But once you have kids, especially as a new mom, before you ever leave the house, you have to figure out the timing of getting the baby up, feeding the baby, and then also then having time to like get the milk in the refrigerator and then pack the part pumps and then for breastfeeding at the office. And then you have to figure out your lunch, how to get the baby on time. What if the baby has a blowout and now you're running late to work and you also have to notify the babysitter you're going to be running late. There's just so many things outside of yourself that you can't control that I just had no clue to expect, I guess. And there's no part of a mom's brain that ever gets to just be like, I'm going to get up and go to work. I'm always, even though our kids are now 6 and 9, going to be thinking like, did Finn remember his lunch? And oh shoot, did Leighton remember to grab that jacket? And oh, was it a dress down day today? Like there's just so many things that like it does get so easy as a mom to let yourself go. And I think that that's what part of the mission of Healthy by Heather Brown, why it's so important to me, because at the beginning of becoming a mom, I did just let myself go because I didn't know what else to do. And I was depressed and all these other factors were going on. But now it's like, I know that if I don't put on my oxygen mask first, then I actually am going to be the worst wife to you and the worst mom to Leighton and Finn. And so I really want to empower other moms with that message daily, which is why I love this podcast.
And I think kind of similar to what we were just talking about in our relationship, it kind of, at least I think I've noticed with you as well as myself in regards to parenting, is that whether you're newly married or you're a new parent, you tend to stress over a lot of the little things, which is okay at first to stress about those little things. But as you progress in your marriage or progress as a parent, you kind of learn to focus on what are those things that are really important. What are those things that, you know what, that's okay if your son forgets his water bottle or, you know, does these other things. Like they're going to learn from their mistakes and they're probably going to be better for it. So I think,
actually, if you let them, though, I'm reading this book, Love and Logic, right now. Game changer for parenting. Love.
Gotcha. But kind of along that same line is that I think you learn to prioritize, you learn to set those expectations for your children, just like you learn to set the expectations in your marriage as well, too. And yeah, I think that's what all I would kind of add as far as progressing in our parenting.
And I also think as far as that goes, though, too, I know that I just talked about a lot of the hard stuff, but truly there is no better feeling than when you really feel like Leighton or Finn is either saying, I love you to you, and it's not just out of the rote routine, but like they're truly like they just want us to know how much they love us, or even if they come up and you can tell they really mean, they're saying that they're sorry. And so one of the most beautiful things about having children too is getting to think about when I come to the Lord and say that I'm sorry. He's not this like huge mad God that's like crossing his arms and like, here she comes again with one more thing she has to apologize for, because that's not how we feel about our kids. So how much more, since God's that much more perfect than we are, does he just want to like be close to us and reconnect every time that we come to say we're sorry? So I love that picture of the gospel.
Yeah, we like to play the good cop, bad cop in our parenting. I'm just kidding. Roles reverse quite often, but anyways. All right, just a few more questions, and this is not quite as serious. I guess it could be, but how do you view money now compared to when you were younger?
So I mentioned on the first part of our podcast that if you go back and listen to it, that we grew up very tight. I still remember literally, Holly and I my sister would even come together and be like, can we combine our money together and offer to like buy this at, the grocery store or whatever. Money was really, really tight. And it just was one of those things where you just learn to quit asking if you could do things, because we would say things like, can we go to the zoo today? And the answer would usually be, well, we would love to do that, but we don't have the money and we need to save. And so I feel like my parents did such an excellent job of teaching Holly and I how to save, and that you can't just go like do whatever you want to do without saving. I actually think my parents taught me so much about having a healthy money mindset and never going into like debt other than just for something like a mortgage or, like being really, really fiscally responsible. And now how I view about money, I feel like I'm just so thankful Eric's really good at investing. And I'm really thankful that I've been able to take that same mindset of like, we don't need to live above our means. There's absolutely no reason to do that. I feel like Eric and I have both done a really good job ever since, before we got married, and then especially in our early years of marriage, just living well below our means, especially in the beginning, so that we didn't have to take on a bunch of debt, so that we could pay off any student loans and cars and those kind of things. But yeah, I think now I view money as more just like, I'm so thankful that you handle. I mean, you do handle for the most part, like, this is where our budget's at. This is what we need to be doing. And I view my role as the woman and the mom of the household, as my job is to be fiscally frugal where I can and not to just blow a bunch of extra money, and then to make sure that I communicate with it about you. But I also think that I probably have a little bit more freedom with money now than I did back then too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that sentiment, especially when we were younger. We definitely lived below our means. A little 2-bedroom condo when we first got married. And I think one of the ways that I think that you are great with money is just how open, and I'm glad that we are in a position to be able to be generous with our money. And you really do a great job of supporting different people and different organizations like the Well House. We were just at the Grace Gala recently, and you have really made it more important to me and more of a priority for me to not hold on to money so closely. I think a lot of times husbands in particular, they want to provide security for their family, which definitely is one of my main priorities from a financial perspective. But sometimes you can get so focused on, keeping that security for your family that you almost covet it so much that it's difficult to be as generous as you would like. And I can definitely tell as we progress, we've been able to, and me especially, have been more willing to look for opportunities to help. And then once you start doing that, whether it's big or small, it's just, it really is a game changer as far as your mindset is concerned. And it is incredible how the Lord has provided and how faithful he is for those circumstances. But I guess I'll end on this last question, and it's kind of a forward-thinking question, but what are some of your just kind of general goals, and they can be very simple or very abstract, if you will, over the next 5 to 10 years, and it can be for business, relationship, family. How about we just do this? How about for our family over the next 5 to 10 years? What are some of your kind of goals for our family?
I don't think this will surprise Eric at all, but I would love to add a pet soon to our family. I really want a dog. I've been wanting one for 16 and a half years in our marriage. So I'm hoping year 17, I'll finally get a dog for the boys. I just think that that's a really important lesson for them to learn, how to take care of something outside of themselves. And then obviously pets have so many health benefits, and it's just a sweet childhood memory to build.
Not unless you are allergic to them, but anyways, I hear what you're saying. It's a very good goal.
Eric also knows that I really would like to get some land at some point, and I would love to be able to have chickens and let the boys be able to experience what that looks like, to have eggs and to learn about that kind of thing. And I think it was just something that I've been watching a lot of people doing, homesteading, and just learning more about how to get your kids more involved with understanding chores and what it takes to get food from, the ground and from sources outside of just I just get chicken at the grocery store or whatever, And then also I really would love to just keep doing our family reading of Christian books. I really like that Eric's reading Little Pilgrim's Progress to the boys right now, and it's illustrated, it's beautiful, and we do that once a week. I want to keep things like that. And then I also would love to probably at some point, and maybe it's that our lake place or our beach place has land with it. I don't know. But definitely just looking for ways to expand. And I also want to write a book. So that's a lot. There you go. I'm like, are you sweating now?
Oh my gosh. A lot of these goals are definitely outside of my comfort zone. This is going to be an interesting 5 to 10 years, y'all. But yeah, I love that you have goals and that you're dreaming of those things and that we can talk about those things together. I definitely think the dog is within the realm of possibilities sooner rather than later. We'll talk about those other things.
Hang on, you got to share yours now. Or at least a couple, 1 to 2.
Maybe that'll be for another podcast. We can flip it around and you can ask me some questions. All right.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and the last one that Eric and I did, part 1 and 2. Again, scroll down to the show notes. You can click to listen to part 1. We'll have that all linked up and easy for you. And if you have any questions you'd like for me or Eric to answer, please leave us a 5-star rating and a review. And in that review, leave us a question you want us to answer for the next Marriage Corner or the next episode. We're really, really grateful for you listening. We're really grateful for you sharing this with a friend or maybe a married couple that you think might enjoy this season of the podcast as well. We love you guys. Have a great Tuesday, and we'll see you next time. Okay, friend, that's a wrap on this week's episode. If you're not already following me on Instagram, make sure to screenshot this episode, share it to your stories, and tag @Healthy by Heather Brown so I can connect with you in my DMs. It truly brings me so much joy to see how these episodes impact you. Make sure to subscribe so we can see you back here next Tuesday for our weekly show. In case you don't know, your downloads, ratings, and reviews are the actual lifeblood of this podcast, and it helps spread the word to your friends and family. So please hit the download button on this episode and leave a 5-star rating if you super loved it. And if we're really BFFs, you'll spread the happy and text this podcast link to someone who needs to hear it today for some encouragement. Scroll down to the show notes on this episode to see any and all links mentioned, freebies to fuel your health goals, prayer-related episodes, and the 7-day free trial of my exclusive membership where I personally coach and cheer you on in whole health. While you're there, make sure to check out my Amazon storefront with healthy snacks, my favorite look for less workout outfits, and books and devotionals that challenge me in my faith. If you ever need to find my Amazon storefront, just Google Healthy by Heather Brown Amazon and it will come up. Have a great day, girl gang.